Welcome to Arcane Answers. I'm your host, Lare, and with me, as always, are the indomitable Amanda and Sara. How you ladies doing today?
Indomitable, that's it.
I'm doing a lot better now.
Get me dominated. Yes.
Did you do anything fun this week?
No, it's been a long week.
Enjoyed the long weekend.
Yeah. I just realized I'm a dirty liar. I had 4 days off, and I actually didn't do anything. It just felt really long. So I was too busy loafing.
Well, that's nice, though.
Oh, no.
That's important. I permed my kid's hair.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Are perms back in? Is that a thing now?
Oh, yes, it is.
For boys.
Well, just
You know, like the broccoli-headed kids? You've seen it.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
I have? Okay.
You haven't?
Broccoli-headed kids.
Yeah, like they got like the long, floppy, curly hair.
Have you guys watched the new Percy Jackson series on Disney?
No.
Oh, I didn't know if any of your minions were into that. Never mind.
No, but my son, my eldest son, well, actually all of them kind of do have naturally curly hair.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, not like that, though. It's the tight coil, so it gives them almost like the...
It's not tight coils at all, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
I'm looking at pictures right now, and it's that's a look. That is a look that people will choose.
Yeah. Yes, and people have chosen.
Yeah, I think it's fine. But we're getting a little off topic. I do want to say I got a little housekeeping up top. You guys discovered that the voicemail was broken. And I don't know how long it's been broken, but it seems to be working now because we do have a voicemail from a listener, and I'm going to play that now.
Hey, Arcane Answers. I want to let you know I listened to your podcast last Saturday, and you were talking about souls slipping into other people and taking over their bodies, and the people experiencing what the previous soul was experiencing. I have something very similar that I've noticed my entire life. Whenever I pick up a fountain pen or whatever kind of pen, whatever kind of writing utensil you want to say, I find that I write in a style that is not mine. It takes about 2 or 3 sentences, and I attribute it to the last person who used that pen. There's still a little bit of them left in it, and I'm emulating their style. So I love your podcast, connected with the concepts. Just wanted to share my experience.
All right, so we got our first voicemail, and it's from an awesome story, too.
I love that.
Uh-huh. I really would like to send him some pens from various people and have him record writing.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea. I think I'll see if I can do that. I'll follow up with that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll color code them so that we know who they belonged to, but he won't.
And we'll see if the writing style matches. We're doing a little a paranormal investigating.
We're just being spook spies over here.
Yeah. It is hot as hell up here in the Arcane Mansion, and I gotta say, I need to get this show started. I am in the tallest tower, and it is heat rising.
Oh, so, no.
Yeah. But that has nothing to do with this week. This week, we are going to be talking about fairies. Fairies, most people picture tiny winged benevolent beings like Disney Tinkerbell, but we're going to go a little bit more folklore, a little darker. Like the modern fairy image, departs from its historical belief and emerged in the Middle Ages, similar to magical entities that existed globally for millennia. Like, we've always, as humans, been, I think, fascinated by the unseen. You guys got some fairy lore that you're itching to get out this episode?
I mean, mine's interesting. Amanda's is, there's a trigger warning prior to hers.
So. Oh, no.
Mine ended up really traumatic. Like, I thought it would be a little cuter than it was, and then I went down this terrible rabbit hole.
Well, I am going to say, I'm going to start with one that's kind of fun, and then we're going to get into a little bit fairy lore, and then I'm going to hand it off to you guys, but I'm a little worried. So here we go.
It'll be fine. It's a little dark. We'll get through it. This is why science prevails sometimes.
Okay,
I did find it really interesting in my research, though, to find out that fairy or fae is a very, like, umbrella term.
Yeah.
And not just, like you were saying, the cute little pixie guys that we're used to seeing.
Yeah, the Unseelie Court, right? Or something like that.
Oh, I will tell you all about the Seelie and Unseelie Court.
Yeah, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's start with one of the most famous fairy stories, and that's the Cottingley Fairies. In 1917 in Yorkshire, two young cousins, Elsie Wright and Frances Griffith, took 5 photos that they claimed to show real fairies. And decades later, in the 1980s, they confessed that the photos were fake using cardboard cutouts, except for Frances, however, maintained the 5th photo in 1920 was genuine. And the girls initially intended it as a family joke and got confused why so many believed them. And like people who believe them were like the writer of Sherlock Holmes, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I think we touched on this a few episodes back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I just tell you that there was a movie that they did depicting that story, and I was obsessed with that movie and was very convinced that fairies were real.
What's the name of the movie? Do you remember?
I don't remember. Let me look it up.
All right. While you're doing that, I am going to tell you that he got enthusiastically, I guess, interested in what he believed was clear evidence of supernatural phenomena, and he was commissioned to write on fairies. And he found the photos to be like a godsend, leading legitimacy to his spiritualism and fairy craze. And the public took off with it too. They were like, yeah, man, this is awesome. But some of them were like, no, that's clearly cardboard cutouts. You can see that they're flat. So,
It's the Loch Ness Monster all over again.
yes, it is the Loch Ness Monster all over again. Or even Bigfoot, where like, confessions come out, but somebody maintains that it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, no, it was real. And the other one's like, no, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. So that movie was called Fairy Tale, A True Story.
Fairy Tale, A True Story. All right.
If I remember correctly, it was a very cute movie, but I was very convinced that there was fairies living in
Yorkshire?
No, in my parents' garden.
Oh.
My parents had an extensive garden with just the most beautiful, fragrant flowers, and I was convinced that fairies had to be in there.
Well,
honestly, I kind of was when I was little too.
Oh, heck yeah.
Washington's a pretty magical place. I mean,
it is.
If you go to the forested side, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is.
The high desert where we grew up, not as magical.
Yeah.
Except for your garden, apparently.
My dad, well, that's what my dad did professionally. So he was an orchardist by trade, but he also did landscaping, pest control.
Yeah, he had his own business.
Yeah, and so we had a pretty impressive yard for lower middle class folk.
Our mom grew all of our vegetables for the winter.
Nice.
So they had a huge garden. And anyways, I was convinced that fairies had something to do with it.
Well, that's funny that, I mean, fairies, the belief in fairies endures and still does. I mean, like, people believe in this, or, have like traditions that you may not really remember why we do these things, like horseshoes above doors and things like that. But like the belief in fairies enduring is because we, like so many things, try to explain the unexplainable, like disappearances, illnesses, crop failures, or bad luck. Like all the folklore before other things would provide the answers to that. Well, it's a chaotic world, but it's because fairies are doing it to you.
Yeah. No, that's where you get a lot of superstitions, and it is really fascinating to see how those kind of fade away pretty rapidly once you get science involved.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you take religion and folk beliefs and they kind of mix together. Like, a lot of pre-Christian deities got kind of reinterpreted negatively by Christianity. and replace them with, demons or like
Yeah.
demoted angels, and they're like, no, these things are evil. And, but it's still that superstition proceeds. It's no longer a fairy doing it to you. It's a demon doing it to you, like saying,
course.
God bless you when we sneeze, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Except for me, I scream, "Don't die," and then run away.
I mean, she does sometimes, actually.
Do you think I like that? Do you think like in contemporary culture, like the idea of, I mean, even setting aside like New Age and Wicca, but like modern fairy tales will spark belief in the younger generations of these folklore myths and things of that? Like, I can't think of an example. I mean, Lord of the Rings is not a good example, but like Lord of the Rings, something modern like that, or Percy Jackson.
I feel like we've replaced fairies and, supernatural things like that more with conspiracy theories. I think those are more modern fairy tales.
I think as you grow up, yeah, but are you talking like the younger generation, like the generation we're raising, or that our kids will raise?
Yeah, both. I mean, the generation I'm raising, they're pretty pragmatic. But like my youngest still has kind of a sense of awe and wonder to her, and
she's full.
she is delightful. And so like things are starting to fade away a little bit, like the idea of like Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's come up to me and she's like, hey, I lost a tooth, and could you tell the Tooth Fairy I would like them to get the tooth that's under my pillow because I put it there and didn't tell anyone? I was like, I see.
I see what you did
also,
there.
It's going to cost you another $1.
Yeah.
Yeah, my kid, his last tooth that he lost, he was like, man, it's my last one. I really hope the Tooth Fairy brings me $20. And I was like, the Tooth Fairy's not going to bring you $20, kid. Sorry to tell you.
Well, let's get back. We should circle back, since we're on Tooth Fairies, go back to fairies and how they're often traditionally depicted as like beautiful or handsome with incredibly long-lived lives. A lot of differences in depictions. I don't know if this is from Christianity or if it's from like a mix of two, but they believe that they lack souls.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard that theory.
And their sizes are all over the map. Like they go from like tiny little sprites to human-sized beings or bigger, and then they have magical powers. That's
of course
another thing that kind of separates them from us. Like, invisibility, fortune telling, that kind of thing.
Speak for yourself.
Well, now here's somewhere I guess we share together is the power of human abduction.
What?
I mean, it's not solely owned by fairies, but people used to believe it was.
I thought you meant you and I. I'm like, when did we kidnap people?
I kidnapped a friend once and took him to Seattle, but that's a whole other story.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. At least you didn't replace him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that is where I'm going, is with changelings.
Oh, no.
No.
Yeah, changelings stealing people's babies and putting sickly babies in there.
That's what I did, too.
You did changelings?
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry. I'm not going to linger on it too long. I just wanted to name check them, so that's awesome. You can flesh that out a little bit.
That's why she has a trigger warning.
Yeah. I'm assuming. Go ahead.
No, I'm more doing just an overview where like we're talking about fairy strengths and weaknesses and what they kind of get up to. And so like, I mean, I'm going to touch on the Seelie Court and Unseelie Court a little bit, but not too much either. So,
and then I deep dive into it.
Yep. Yeah, there you go.
Actually, I just dipped my toes in it.
Yeah, it's too diving. What is this, a 4-hour podcast? We cut this down to like 40 minutes. So, but yeah, so their powers, like I was saying, range all over the place, like souring milk and to like a red cap who kills people. So, like,
just to soak his hat in the blood.
Yeah. Or like what was the horse one that's in the bog there? It'll give you a ride and then stop and drown you.
The kelpie.
Yeah, the kelpie.
Mhm.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or sirens. I believe sirens and mermaids are lumped into the fairy categories as
Oh,
well.
why not?
Trolls as
Hell,
well.
you can
Yep.
throw like let's go a little Irish, throw some banshees and doulahans in there.
Oh, don't worry. I'm throwing a banshee in there.
Oh, good. Dark, ominous figures associated with death. Yeah. But here's some tips on how to deal with fairies. Okay. So
Mhm.
you got plant-based protections, widely used. Marigold, primrose garlands hung on your doors and windows. For some reason, St. John's wort, which was a huge like cure-all when I was a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember
But-
that.
Yeah, but that's strong protection there. Wood from ash, blackthorn, and red berries. We're supposed to repel them. I think that they used to put daisies in children's pockets to prevent them from being abducted.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Did you see anything about the rowan tree?
No, I didn't.
So, specifically, a sprig or a branch from a rowan tree is supposed to protect you from fairies.
Yeah. So like ash or ash tree or blackthorn would fall into that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's neat. Like, blackthorn is what they make shillelaghs out of.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And then there's food-based protections, which I think's fun. You're like, hey, salt is always good, right? You put salt on your threshold and your windows, and they can't come in.
Salt wards off everything supernatural.
Yeah, like they don't like it.
No.
So wait,
And-
so if you lived on an island surrounded by ocean water, would you be safe from ghosts and fairies?
I'm going to say yes, because 2 of the protection things that I found were salt and running water.
Yep, salt and running water, except I think that if they're already on the island, it doesn't really help. Because, like, look at Ireland.
Solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's bread protections.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeast resin bread either repelled some or they accepted it as offering. So you're a little 50-50 on that one. But like leaving bread crust with milk on the porch is a Welsh tradition to like appease the fairies and protect your livestock.
That just attracts possums.
It would. and like putting daisies in your children's pocket, you could put oatmeal in your own pocket to repel them. You could carry honey or berries or cheese even to offer to fairies. Yeah.
Carrying cheese in your pocket generally repels most people too.
I would think so.
The smellier the better.
Oh man, we are not abducting that guy or his kids. He smells like cheese.
He smells like rotten cheese.
And then of course, iron and steel. That's the kryptonite for fairies. They believe it hindered all, operations. Like an iron nail in the pocket would also prevent abduction. They used to sew nails into their children's clothing.
Interesting.
Put iron shears near their baby's bed to prevent changelings.
I have heard that one.
Oh, and Bibles under the pillow.
Ooh, I didn't know that one.
Later. Yeah, Victorian.
Interesting.
And horseshoes over your doorstep, also steal protection from fairies.
Mm-hmm.
And then throwing iron at a changeling instantly repelled them, which it would repel me too.
Yeah, if somebody threw iron at me, I would also run.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And an iron knife will kill a fairy, which, again, it would kill me too. So.
Depending on where you hit me, it would also kill me.
Well, fun fact, fairies became very much intertwined with the powers of witchcraft after Martin Luther really got down on it. And so a lot of times witches were accused of learning their dark arts from fairy lovers in the night.
Not the fairy lovers.
I like that a lot. And that kind of, I can see how that went into the devil's concubine kind of story.
The succubus and incubus.
Well, yeah, I guess those two. I was thinking more of like witches to get their powers had to like lay with the devil, But I think I'm going to move on from all my other stuff here. These are deeply ingrained beliefs, and so there are some people who still as we perceive them as superstitions, may believe in these today. And if they do, I don't want to treat their beliefs unfairly, just because I've never experienced a fairy, but I have mislaid my glasses and have accused people of taking them. So,
Yeah.
it could very well be fairies. So, with that being said, I am going to hand it over to you guys and take a back seat and listen to what you got to say.
All right. So, as you were talking about before, the Seelie Court and the Unseelie Court. So, everywhere I read it said this really started in like Scotland. So, Scotland fairies are divided into two classifications, the Seelie Court and the Unseelie Court. The Seelie Court are said to be, the really beautiful, vibrant, attractive, friendly types of fairies.
The good fairies.
Yeah. Who actually want to help humans and interact with them. So they seek out humans for favors and in turn offer assistance to help said humans. If there's a disagreement or a human offends them, they try their best to work it out with them instead of just murdering them and soaking their clothes in their blood.
Yeah.
So these are fairies like brownies, pixies, and hobgoblins.
Mm-hmm.
So brownies are the friendly household spirits that help with chores, which I would like. Anything that they want, I will give to them if they want to move in.
What do we got to do? Milk and cake?
Yes.
Milk and yeast risen bread, right?
Well, what I had seen was milk and cake, but, cake is, I'm sure you could do bread. They like sweets. So.
I bet they'd like cake better than sweet bread.
Yeah.
Or
milk,
sweet breads.
Anything like that. They're more solitary creatures.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of, what would a group of fairies be called?
Fae.
Just fae? It's not like
the fae.
A murder of crows.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like the collective noun.
Yeah. Anyways, off topic. So, brownie.
Oh, I bet it's a glimmer of fairies.
Is it a glimmer?
I don't know. I made that up.
So it is now.
Yeah. So they prefer to be solitary. Pixies are the ones that we know of as fairies nowadays. The Tinkerbells, the cute little winged creatures with the pointy ears. Apparently humans can give them clothing in order to get into their good graces. So a lot of times,
like teeny tiny little clothes, or like human size clothes.
No, like teeny tiny clothes. Because a lot of times they're depicted in like scraps of things, and like their clothing's always torn and tattered. But giving them, just being like, hey, I made you this shirt.
That's where all the Barbie clothes go.
That is where all the Barbie clothes go. That's where all my shoes went.
A lot of fairies walking around with one shoe out there.
Right? I couldn't find the other one. So they're most commonly found in nature, and these are actually social creatures. So they like to gather in groups, a glimmer of pixies.
I did look it up, and I see a flutter, a shimmer, or a group.
Shimmer's good.
Yeah, shimmer's pretty good.
Yeah. And then the last fairy that I'm going to talk about of the Seelie Court is the hobgoblin. And he is a small, hairy man who often does odd jobs around the house while the family is asleep. So he's like the cousin of the brownie. He's a little more volatile, though. He doesn't have much patience. So if a hobgoblin is wronged by a human, so if we didn't leave the offering or, made him mad in some way or another, so he's going to do one of two things. He's either going to leave the dwelling and be like, good luck getting all your chores done, suckers.
Yeah.
Or in some cases, if he's really mad and the human doesn't even try to appease him at all, he'll turn into a Bogart.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So we go from Seelie Court to Unseelie Court real quick with the Bogart, or with the hobgoblin turning into a Bogart. So the Unseelie Court, these are the more hideous depictions of fairies. So the trolls, the ogres, the banshees, the kelpies, They're malicious and they have no interest in being friendly with humans. They are more commonly associated with like autumn and winter, where the Seelie Court is more associated with spring and summer.
Mm-hmm.
So the Unseelie Court prefers the darkness.
That makes sense. It's a scarier time.
Right. It's cold, it's dark, there's less food. There's, you got to blame somebody. They often still steal children. So again, the changelings. We all touch on that. Because they're actually unable to reproduce.
Oh.
They harm or kill humans for enjoyment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now are the other, like the Seelie Court, are they able to reproduce or do they steal children too?
It did not touch on that, but because the Unseelie Court really hammered hard that they couldn't reproduce, I'm gonna assume that the Seelie Court can reproduce.
Okay. Poor guys.
I know. So examples of fairies in the Unseelie Court would be kelpies, banshees, and Bogarts, formerly known as hobgoblins. So, as you were saying before, the kelpie is a shape-shifting water spirit, commonly depicted as a large horse. Some stories describe them as a beautiful, tame pony hanging out by the river. Children are particularly attracted to them. So the kelpie will lure the child in and, they're best friends. Why don't you go ahead and hop onto my back and we can go for a little jaunt around the forest? Kid's like, hey, that's a great idea. Jumps on the horse's back. And then the child finds himself magically stuck to the horse because their hide is sticky.
Oh.
The kelpie then drags the child into the river and eats them.
Yes. I've always heard it as a traveler. I've never heard of it as a child. So that's even darker. That's fun. Thank you.
Yeah. I didn't go into it in my research, but the red cap was the one that really liked travelers. And so did Willow the Wisp.
Mm-hmm. Leads
really
you off into bogs, right?
Yeah. Travelers and musicians. So my next member of the Unseelie Court is the Banshee. So, I mean, I'm sure most, if not all of us, have heard Scream Like a Banshee.
Sure.
So the Banshee is a woman who is draped in a shroud, often depicted as having pale, gaunt features. She appears when a family member has died or if a family member is going to die. And they're seen as the bearer of bad news. So I've actually heard a lot of different theories on the Banshee, and it was always very malignant. Like it wasn't good nor bad. It was just a sign of something to come. On the same vein as the Banshee, they have, I can't remember, I want to say it's Ireland or Scotland or Germany. They would all make sense. There's a version of a Banshee over there called the Washing Woman.
Yeah.
Who apparently will just wash the clothes of the person that's going to die.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, I buy my clothes at like a big box store, so I don't think I could pick my t-shirt out from another person's t-shirt.
Right.
Yeah.
I could just imagine her like menacingly in the corner with a washing board, like, you're gonna die.
Oh,
and
yeah.
she's scrubbing your pants.
Pointing at you and then scrubbing the shirt. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, it's a black t-shirt. I think there could be anybody.
So my last guy is the Bogart. So he is a malevolent spirit. He's said to make milk go bad, make things disappear, and even make animals sick. So he is the mad hobgoblin who jump teens. It's like, yeah, screw those humans. I'm going to steal their stuff and make their animals sick.
Yeah.
No. That is all I have on those. I did write down a couple of protection things.
Ooh, any I miss?
So you had been talking about like plants and flowers and such. So the 4-leaf clover is said to, if you carry it around, it's said to prevent fairies from being able to hide. So
they
can't, like, glamour you into thinking they're a human. You're like, hey, you have wings. I can see those. You tiny creature. The Appeasing offerings, like you were saying, leaving milk, honey, bread on the doorstep. That'll keep them from wanting to harm you. Bells, apparently, that like wind chimes, things like that, will deter them.
Oh.
Yeah. But then it was like, on the other hand, it said that the Queen of the Fairies actually rides around on a horse and she has bells, so who knows?
Well, that's to keep all the weaker ones away.
Maybe she's actually a changeling that infiltrated. And she doesn't want anybody to find out, so she's keeping bells next to her.
You know, when I was young, I had two major influences. One was Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
Mm-hmm.
That movie I watched a ton when I was a kid. I highly recommend it. And then there are 3 books. Brian Froud and Alan Lee wrote this book on fairies. And if you guys can find it, it is absolutely fascinating. It is great. It has their sketches, which they're very good artists, depicting the fairies, and gives you the history of them and what they do and like how to ward them off. And then they put out Lady Coddington's Press Book of Fairies, which is a fun one, and Good Fairies and Bad Fairies, which is you flip it over from the good fairy side to the bad fairy side.
Oh, how cool.
And I have these 3 books with me right now just to be like, hey, I have a legitimate interest in this topic.
Right. Did any of your kids get into the Spiderwick Chronicles?
No.
Or was that before that? Those are really cool stories too.
That's okay. So that was some of the modern myth making that I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did a movie that was pretty good, but they tried to jam pack too many things into it. But the books were great. Our younger sister, one of them, had the entire series and absolutely loved them. And they came out with illustration books as well. That was like the field guide.
Oh,
and
nice.
So it had like the picture of the fairy and then the description and all of that stuff.
That's cool.
That's actually going to lead me into my next thing of protection that I found. Have you heard of a hagstone?
Mm-hmm.
Have you?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So a hagstone is a naturally occurring rock that basically the water beats up to the point where it has a hole in it. So it's a round stone and it has a hole in it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So apparently it said that if you look through a hagstone, it will show the true like appearance of a fairy or a witch.
Oh, that's interesting. I had it totally different than that.
What was that?
I had it was hung over mangers to protect horses from being ridden by fairies.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
I
like
didn't come across that.
Yeah, no, I didn't come across like using it to see fairies.
Yeah, it is able to see through their disguises. But Spiderwick Chronicles, that's one of the things they use in that to be able to see the trolls and whatnot that are trying to. Yeah.
I see. So that's cool. I love that.
Yeah. So that was my little Unseelie Court. By mine, I mean the Scottish and Irish.
Well, the topic that I chose today ended up being a little bit more traumatic to research than I expected. So I'd like to pause here and put in this trigger warning for child abuse. Sorry in advance. I'm not going to be graphic, if at all possible, because holy crap, people were psychotic.
Just mentions of it and probably child loss.
Yeah, so it's hard to believe today, like people truly, truly, truly believed in fairies and the dangers of fairies and used them as kind of a, I don't know, like an explanation or a scapegoat for everything that could possibly go wrong. So what I'm talking about today specifically are changelings. So simply put, it's basically a fairy swaps out your real child for either another supernatural creature. Sometimes they think it's, or it's expected to be one of their children or one of their elderly. Sometimes it's described as an enchanted object and it's not even a real person. That was interesting.
Oh.
But you might be wondering, like, what would motivate fairies to run around stealing human children? Like, so in some cultures, for instance, in Scandinavia, trolls, it was considered more prestigious to be raised by humans, so they were swapping out their kids.
Okay.
For them, it was like, oh yeah, I got raised by the Wilsons over there. I mean,
a little class warfare there.
You gave them the greatest Southern accent.
Yeah.
Scandinavia.
Well, I can't do a Scandinavian accent. Aside from the trolls, we have why would, English, or I guess Welsh fairies steal children. A lot of times they would replace their elderly with a human child because the human child would be taken to the fairy realm to be raised and work as a servant, essentially. So that's how they offloaded their less desirables and got their new servants. So identifying a changeling. So a changeling would often be sickly, have a birth defect, or in older children, there would be a personality change or a sudden sort of ailment. Or maybe they became strange or naughty, right? So your kid all of a sudden gets an attitude. Well, maybe they've been taken by the fae. Sorry to everyone with a teenager.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure I have one of those upstairs right now.
Yeah. Or perhaps the child is fine and then all of a sudden they become ravenous without gaining weight. Then they may become sickly after that. If you know anything about, type 1 diabetes, that's what happens to them. If the child, suddenly starts showing like signs of what we now know as hydrocephalus, which would be, brain swelling or something like that. Water on the brain is what they call it. It's extra cerebrospinal fluid. That causes personality changes, illness, sickness. So parents who thought that their children had been taken by the fae, they had tests for this.
Often throwing iron at them.
Yeah, because I've heard about that repelling.
Yeah, a lot of it standing outside in the cold on a steel shovel or an iron shovel. Sometimes walking on hot coals. Sometimes they would give them water, and then if they couldn't cough, they would just beat them, sometimes to death. But the idea, it was a twofold idea, which was, one, if you were abusing this individual that you think is a changeling, then they'd bring back your real kid. Like, they would do all of these things to try to get the fairies to return their child to whatever state of health that they had before.
But that troll is really enjoying his time with the Wilsons.
Yeah.
Not anymore, he's not.
It doesn't matter. It's still better than being raised by troll bears.
Or, I mean, it could be that, trolls enjoy that sort of thing. I don't know.
Just trying to lighten the mood.
Yeah. But so, yeah, I mean, it was interesting to see, like, just the cases. So I got into this book called Fairies: A Dangerous History by Richard Sugg, I think it is, maybe Sugg. And he just goes like hard into the persecution faced by children deemed changelings, especially after they became so deeply intertwined with Christian demonic lore. So then it wasn't just getting your kid back, but it was like saving their soul.
Okay, so then it goes into like demonic possession or something.
Yeah, so they had like exorcisms, or what they called fairy doctors, which were people who were supposedly like experts in defairifying your child. Yes, or I mean,
but if it's a changeling, it's been swapped. You can't bring back, like, if I give you a Sprite, then took your Coke, you can't turn that Sprite into a Coke. Well, I have those on my desk.
Sort of, but like by some beliefs, they took them incrementally. So, like a child getting sicker and sicker and sicker would be thought to be being like slowly taken by fairies and being replaced. So yeah, it was really, really interesting, but super dark. And I am very, very grateful for the advancements in both modern medicine and in just the psychology.
And puppetry.
And
Because
puppetry.
then we wouldn't have gotten Labyrinth, where the fairy's still a child, to make it the next Fairy King.
Goblins.
You remind me of the babe.
What babe?
The babe with the power.
What power?
The power of voodoo.
Voodoo?
Voodoo.
What?
Remind me of the babe.
A goblin babe.
That was my child's favorite movie when he was like 3. He, fell out at the stage of watching it. And then I want to say when he was about 7, I was like, oh man, this used to be your favorite movie. Let's turn it on. You're like 15 minutes into it, maybe 20. And he looks at me and he goes, this is the most terrifying thing I've ever seen.
Yes.
Let me watch this.
Of course we're helping. We're helping hands.
I loved that movie so much.
I still love that movie.
Yeah. But I think that there are like a lot of fairy tales and stuff that I grew up with. Like my parents are superstitious, and they have a David the Gnome that they've encapsulated because they believed it to bring bad luck. So they they haven't had as bad of luck since they put him in his jar. So there you go.
That's amazing. Also, I would like to see a picture of this gnome in a jar.
Can that be the cover?
Oh, let me see if I can get my mom to take a picture of it. That's all we have time for this week. And now that you've left bread and milk out on the porch, let's put on a leather trench coat because next time we're talking about the glitch in the Matrix.
Oh, yes. Morpheus. Isn't that it?
Yeah, that's it.